I didn't lose everything all at once. That's the lie I keep telling myself because it's easier to survive something sudden, a collapse, a single impact, a moment you can point to and say, there. That's where it broke. But that's not what happened. What happened was slower, quieter, more precise. And the worst part is, what? I felt it happening. It started with something so small I almost didn't register it. A pause. Not even a full second. Just a fraction. The kind of delay your brain excuses automatically, like a glitch in a video, a lag in a call, a hesitation in someone's voice. I was standing in my apartment kitchen, holding a glass of water. Condensation had gathered so thick it was slipping against my fingers, and I remember tightening my grip, not consciously, just enough to stop it from falling. And then nothing. Not darkness. Not unconsciousness. Just a gap. A space where something should have been. I blinked. The glass was still in my hand. The room hadn't changed, but something inside me had shifted just slightly, like a misaligned gear. I stood there longer than necessary, staring at the sink, listening. The refrigerator hummed, a low, constant vibration that I'd never noticed before. The sound felt intrusive, too loud for something that had always been there. I swallowed. My throat felt dry despite the water. Okay, I said out loud. My voice sounded normal. That should have reassured me. It didn't. The first real fracture came later that night. I was sitting on the edge of my bed, phone in hand, scrolling through messages. Not really reading, just moving my thumb, watching text blur into movement. Something felt off. Not in the room. Not outside. Inside. I opened my messages again. Slower this time. More deliberate. Names. Conversation. Threads. Everything looked familiar. Until it didn't. There was a conversation at the top of my screen that I didn't recognize. Not entirely. The name Daniel felt right. I knew it. I should know it. But the weight of recognition didn't land properly. It hovered just out of reach, like a word on the tip of your tongue that refuses to form. I tapped it. The chat opened, and instantly something tightened in my chest. The messages were recent, continuous, intimate in a way that suggested time, weeks, maybe months of back and forth. But I didn't remember typing any of them. My thumb hovered above the screen. Scroll. Each message felt like reading something written by someone pretending to be me. The tone was right. The phrasing mine. Even the rhythm of how I typed. Well, it matched. But the intent. What? The intent felt foreign. Did you handle it? That was one of the messages. Sent from me. I stared at it. My stomach twisted not sharply but slowly, like something coiling. Handle what? There was no reply beneath it. Just silent. The timestamp said it was sent at 2:13 a.m. I checked the time now. 11:47 p.m. I had no memory of being awake at 2:13 a.m. None. I exhaled long and controlled, like I could push the feeling out of my body if I did it right. This is nothing, I whispered, but my voice didn't sound convincing anymore. Sleep didn't come. Not really. I lay on my back, staring at the ceiling, watching shadows shift in patterns that didn't quite match the passing cars outside. Every sound felt amplified. Every second stretched. My mind kept circling back to that message. Did you handle it? The words began to distort the longer I thought about them. Not visually. Conceptually. They felt heavier. More deliberate. Like they carried meaning I couldn't access anymore. At some point, I turned onto my side. My phone was still in my hand. The screen lit up slightly as I shifted, a notification. Same contact. Daniel. My chest tightened instantly, faster this time, more reactive. I opened it. 3 words. You don't remember. My fingers went cold. I didn't respond. I couldn't, because the question didn't feel like confusion. It felt like confirmation. Morning didn't reset anything. That's when I knew this wasn't temporary. Usually whatever feels wrong at night dissolves under daylight. The brain corrects itself. Context returns. Logic fills the gap. But this stayed. It sat inside me, quiet and patient, waiting. I stood in front of the bathroom mirror longer than necessary. My reflection looked exactly the same. Same face, same faint line near my left eyebrow, same slight asymmetry in my eyes, something I'd always noticed but never mentioned. I leaned closer. My pupils looked normal, no dilation, no strain. But there was something else, something behind the eyes, not visible, but present a distance, like I was looking at someone I knew very well, but didn't fully trust. I touched the mirror lightly. Cold, real, grounding. Get a grip, I muttered. The words sounded sharper this time, edged with something that wasn't there before. I stepped back, and that's when I noticed it, a bruise, faint, yellowing slightly, just below my collarbone. I froze. My fingers moved toward it slowly, hesitantly, like touching it would confirm something I didn't want confirmed. It hurt, not sharply, but enough to mean it was real. I tried to think. Nothing came, no memory, no explanation, just absence. And the absence was louder than anything else. Work should have grounded me. Routine usually does. Predictability, structure, familiar faces. But the moment I stepped into the office, something felt off. Not dramatically, just slightly misaligned. Like the world had shifted a few degrees without telling me. People graded me. I responded. Everything looked normal on the surface, but their eyes lingered a fraction too long. Their pauses stretched just slightly beyond comfort. Rough night, one of them asked. I turned toward him, Mark. His expression was neutral, casual, but his tone carried something else, something probing. I'm fine, I said, too quickly. I saw it register. That slight tightening at the corner of his mouth. Not concern, recognition. Like he'd expected that answer. Right, he said. And then he walked away. Just like that, no follow-up, no clarification. But the space he left behind felt intentional, like a test I didn't know I'd taken. I sat at my desk. My hands hovered above the keyboard. The screen in front of me displayed documents, reports, emails, data set. Familiar, but my mind felt delayed, like my thoughts had to travel a longer distance to reach my fingers. I opened an email. Read it once, then again. The words made sense individually, but together they felt disjointed, like I was missing a layer of context that everyone else had. My breathing slowed, not consciously, just enough to keep something from rising. Because underneath all of this, beneath the confusion, the gaps, the subtle distortions, there was something else, something darker, a feeling I hadn't fully acknowledged yet. Not fear, not exactly, something closer to being observed. I felt it before I saw it. That shift in the room, that subtle tightening in the air. I looked up. Across the office, through the glass walls of the conference room, someone was watching me. Daniel. I knew it instantly, not because I remembered him, but because something inside me reacted before thought could catch up. He didn't wave, didn't smile, just stood there, still, focused, like he was waiting for me to realize something. My heart began to beat harder, not faster, heavier. Each pulse felt deliberate, controlled. I held his gaze, trying to anchor myself, trying to pull something, anything, from the void in my memory. Nothing came. But the longer I looked at him, the more certain I became of one thing he knew. Not just that something was wrong, but exactly what was wrong. And somehow, I was the only one who didn't. He didn't approach me. Not immediately. He let the moment stretch, let the tension settle into something thick and difficult to breathe through. Then slowly he turned and disappeared from view. Just like that, no confrontation, no explanation, just absent. Again, I stared at the empty space where he had been, and for the first time the thought fully formed. Clear, sharp, unavoidable. I didn't lose everything overnight. It was taken. And worse, I think I helped. I didn't move right away after he disappeared. That was the first mistake. Or maybe it was the first honest thing I'd done since this started, because my body refused to follow the illusion of normalcy anymore. It locked. Not dramatically, not in a way anyone else would notice. Just a quiet resistance beneath the surface. My fingers rested on the keyboard, unmoving. The screen dimmed slightly, waiting for input. I didn't give it any, because something had shifted again, but this time it wasn't subtle. It wasn't a pause. It was direction. He wanted me to follow. The thought didn't arrive like a conclusion. It arrived like a memory I hadn't lived yet. Complete. Certain. I stood up. Too quickly. The chair scraped faintly against the floor, too loud, too sharp, and for a brief second, every nearby movement seemed to hesitate in response. Not stop. Just. What? Well, just. Like the room registered me as a disturbance. I didn't look at anyone. I couldn't. Because if I did, I had the distinct, creeping certainty I would see something in their expressions that I wouldn't be able to undo. Something confirming. Something final. So I walked. Not fast. Not slow. Measured. Controlled. Like I was still pretending I knew where I was going. The hallway outside the conference rooms felt narrower than it should have. Or maybe I was more aware of the walls now, the way they seemed to hold sound differently, the way footsteps echoed just a fraction too long behind me. I passed the glass room where I had seen him. Empty, of course, but the air inside looked disturbed, not visibly, not in a way I could prove, just a lingering impression that something had recently occupied that space with intention. I kept walking, toward the end of the corridor, toward the only door that wasn't usually closed, the stairwell. I don't remember deciding to open it. My hand was just already there, pushing. The door creaked quiet but heavy, like it hadn't been used in a while. The moment it opened, the temperature shifted. Cooler, drier, kind of air that doesn't circulate enough. I stepped inside. The door shut behind me with a dull, final sound. And instantly, everything felt closer. He was already there, halfway down the first flight of stairs, leaning slightly against the railing, one hand resting casually like he'd been waiting long enough to become comfortable. Daniel. Up close, something about him felt wrong, not visibly. Everything about his face aligned with what I should recognize. His features made sense. Nothing was distorted, but my brain struggled to hold him, like trying to focus on something that kept slipping just out of clarity. You came, he said. His voice was calm, too calm, not relieved, not surprised, just confirming. I swallowed. My throat felt tight again. We've spoken before, I said. It wasn't a question, but it didn't sound like a statement either. He watched me carefully, and then very slightly he smiled. Not warmly, not coldly, just knowingly. Yes, he said. A pause, long enough to stretch something inside my chest. But you don't remember. The way he said it, there was no accusation, no judgment. Just certainty. And that certainty was worse than anything else. I stepped down one stair, then another. Each movement felt heavier than it should have, like gravity had adjusted itself specifically for me. What did I do? I asked. The words came out lower than expected, tighter, more controlled, because part of me already understood this wasn't about something that happened to me. This was about something I allowed. Daniel shifted slightly, not away, not toward me, just enough to change the angle of his posture. You were very precise, he said. My chest tightened. That wasn't an answer. You need to be more specific, he exhaled slowly, almost like he had been expecting that response. I can't give you everything, he said. The phrasing hit immediately. Not won't, can't. Why not? A small pause. And for the first time, something flickered in his expression. Not emotion, constraint. Because you made sure of that, the words didn't land all at once. They settled in layers. First confusion, then resistance, then something deeper, recognition. Not of memory, but of intent. I felt it in my body before my mind could catch up. A tightening in my chest, a subtle drop in my stomach, like stepping down a stair that wasn't there. What does that mean? I asked, but my voice had changed, less stable, more aware. Daniel watched me closely, evaluate, measuring, like he was deciding how much pressure I could handle before something broke. You knew this would happen, he said, each word placed carefully, deliberately. You planned for it. My vision narrowed slightly. Not physically, but perceptually. Everything outside of him felt less relevant. That doesn't make any sense, but even as I said it, something inside me disagreed. Not loud, just enough. He pushed off the railing, stood fully upright. The shift was small, but it changed the entire dynamic. You came to me, he said. 3 nights ago, 3 nights. My mind tried to latch onto the number. Failed. You were very clear, he continued. You said you needed to remove variables. The phrase hit hard. Remove variable. That sounded like me. Too much like me. Cold. Calculated. Detached. I felt a faint tremor in my hands. Barely visible, but present. What variables? My voice cracked slightly. Just enough to betray something. Daniel's gaze didn't waver. The word didn't make sense. Not immediately. It hovered there, disconnected. Then it started to settle. Not as logic as implication. I shook my head slightly. That's not, but I stopped. Because the denial didn't feel solid, it felt rehearsed, like something I had said before. Not now. Before. Daniel reached into his pocket, slowly, deliberately, and for a brief second, my body reacted before my mind could. Tension, alertness, anticipation. He pulled out a phone. Not mine. Similar, but not mine. He held it out slightly, not offering it, just presenting it. You gave me this, he said. I stared at it. My chest tightened again. Why would I? You told me not to let you remember. Something broke. Not loud, not visibly, but internally a structure collapsed. Because that felt true. Not logically, but deeply. Like something buried too far down to reach. But still powerful enough to distort everything above it. I took a step back. My foot hit the stair behind me. Harder than expected. You're lying, the words came out sharper now. Desperate. Because if he wasn't, then I had done something far worse than forget. I had erased myself. Daniel didn't react, didn't defend, didn't push. He just watched. And that was worse. Because it meant he didn't need to convince me. I was already doing that for him. You said it was the only way, he continued quietly. To finish it, my breathing became uneven. Subtle, but fractured. Finish what? The question came out fast. Too fast. Like if I didn't ask it now, I wouldn't be able to later. Daniel hesitated. For the first time. A real hesitation. Not calculated. Not controlled. Something in him resisted. You don't want that answer, he said. And that was the most terrifying thing he had said so far. Silence filled the stairwell. Heavy. Pressurized. The kind of silence that doesn't just exist, it pushes. I could hear my heartbeat now. Not in my chest. In my ear. Dull. Rhythmic. Relentless. I already lost everything, I said. The words felt hollow the moment they left my mouth. Because I didn't know if they were true. Or if they were just what I had been told to believe. Daniel's eyes sharpened slightly. No, he said. You just don't know what's missing yet. The statement didn't hit like a shock, it seeped. Slow. Controlled. Like something being injected directly into my bloodstream. I felt it spread. Through my chest. Into my limb. Up into my throat. What did I do? I asked again. But this time it wasn't a demand. It was something else. Something closer to permission. Daniel looked at the phone in his hand, then back at me. And for a moment something passed between us. Not understanding. Not agreement. Something more dangerous. Alignment. You made sure there was no way back, he said quietly. My breath caught. And in that space, that thin, fragile space between inhale and exhale, something surfaced. Not a full memory. Not even an image. Just a feeling. Cold. Focused. Certain. A version of me that had already decided everything. That had already calculated the cost. and accepted it. I staggered slightly. My hand caught the railing. Cold metal pressed into my palm, grounding, but not enough. Because now the absence wasn't empty anymore. It was filled with implication, with intention, with something I had chosen not to see. Why, I whispered. The question felt smaller now, less important, but I needed it. I needed something to hold on to. Daniel watched me for a long moment, and then very quietly, you said it was the only way to keep control. Control. The word echoed, louder than anything else, because that was always the core of everything. Structure, precision, predictability. No loose ends, no uncertainty, no risk. I felt something twist inside me. Slow, deliberate. Because if that was true, then this chaos, Lord, this fragmentation, Lord, this loss of self wasn't a failure. It was a result. I looked at him, really looked, and for the first time I saw something clearly. Not about him, about me. Reflected. You're not helping me, I said. The realization came quietly, but it landed hard. You're making sure I don't remember. Daniel didn't respond immediately. And that silence, that hesitation, confirmed everything. I let out a slow breath. It shook slightly, but I didn't stop it, because fighting it felt pointless now. You're following instructions, I continued, each word more stable than the last, more grounded, more dangerous. His expression didn't change, but something in the air did. A subtle shift, acknowledgement. I stepped down one more stair. Closer now, too close, which means, I said slowly. I knew exactly what I was doing. Daniel held my gaze. Didn't deny it, didn't confirm it, but he didn't need to. The realization didn't explode, it settled, like dust, covering everything, changing how it all looked, how it all felt. Because if I had done this, if I had chosen to remove my own memory, to fracture my own identity, to isolate myself from whatever truth I had uncovered, then the real question wasn't what happened. It was, what was I so afraid of? That this was better. The stairwell felt smaller now, tighter, like the walls had shifted inward. Or maybe I had. Daniel lowered the phone slightly, not offering it, not taking it away, just holding it in between, a boundary, a threshold. If you push further, he said quietly, you won't be able to undo it. The warning didn't feel protective. It felt procedural, like a condition. I looked at the phone, then at him, then slowly back at myself. Not physically, internally. That fractured space, that missing center, that carefully constructed absence. And for the first time, I understood something with absolute clarity. This wasn't loss. This was containment. My lips parted slightly. A breath hovered there, unfinished, uncertain. And then I smiled. Not fully, not naturally, just enough, because something inside me had aligned again. Not completely, but enough to recognize the shape of what I had done. And worse, why I had done it. I don't need to remember everything, I said quietly. Daniel's eyes narrowed slightly. Not in suspicion, in recognition. Just enough. The silence that followed wasn't empty. It was waiting. And somewhere beneath everything, beneath the missing pieces, the fractured thoughts, the deliberate gaps, something else moved. Slow, patient, unfinished. And I had the distinct, terrifying certainty that whatever I had tried to contain was still inside me, waiting for me to remember just a little more.